Sophie, thanks again for agreeing to do this with me. I'm really excited to be able to share your story and the amazing progress that you've made in our time working together. Could you start by telling me where you were at with your PCOS before we started working together?
So back before we started working together, I felt like my symptoms were showing up in my everyday life and kind of constantly. Was dealing with all these things that made me feel really different to other people, other women. And I felt quite embarrassed about all of it. In terms of symptoms, it was hair growth, hair loss, acne, inability to lose weight, all of those things that really damaged my confidence. And a kind of um, another way that it was showing up was just in lack of energy, lack of focus. It was really affecting my whole life. And yeah, I just felt like I didn't know what to do or how to move forward from there.
Yeah. And it can be so overwhelming, right? Trying to find the right advice and figure out what to do. And what had you tried before? Who was there anyone that you turned to for advice or support or anything like that before?
So when I initially was diagnosed, my doctor told me to just not eat sugar. And I took that and ran with it. I think I didn't eat added sugar for like a year. I tried lots of variations of low carb diets and quite strict ways of eating. And I found that it would help my symptoms at the time or temporarily, but I still felt really different to everyone else because I couldn't go, I was still really stressed about food. I couldn't eat with people. I didn't know how to adapt my routine to just enjoy things and not feel stressed about food and all of that. So yeah, it kind of worked temporarily, but wasn't a long-term fix.
Yeah, and it sounds like it created even more anxiety, even more overwhelm around food, social situations, and your confidence, which, like you say, is just not sustainable. And how is working with me different?
I mean, it was hugely different just from the very first session. The first session where we talked about hunger was kind of scary and a bit of a revelation at the same time because I had always felt like I wasn't someone who was able to listen to my body. I felt like my body was working against me, and I didn't know how to tune into my body signals. And then when I actually, started doing that and really listening to what my body was trying to tell me, I realized, oh, okay, it's not fighting against me quite as much as I thought it was. And I don't have to be someone who, can't tune into that and can't relax around food and everything. And I think a lot of the advice that I had heard about PCOS was so black and white and very, very limiting in how you can live your life. And everything that we've done together has been small steps and sustainable changes. And it's been so much, it's all accumulated to make a really, really big difference.
Yeah. And what are those big differences? What's different now in comparison to where you were when you started or
I
before we
think
started?
I think the biggest and most noticeable change for me has been in my energy levels. I was so exhausted by just everything before, and I felt like I'd lost the energy to keep doing all of those like restrictive things that had helped in the past. And now I mean, it feels really freeing to know that I don't have to do that, and I can feel, I can have all this energy, and I can still go out and enjoy, you know, I can enjoy food and I can enjoy socializing and enjoy life. And it doesn't all have to fit into this tiny box of like what life with PCOS should look like.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you feel now that the changes that you've made are sustainable and actually they've given you so much freedom and have kind of liberated you from living in that kind of, like you say, that box of these are the rules and this is how you have to live with PCOS.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, really, really freeing.
Right. And what would you say is possible for you now that wasn't possible before?
I think one of the really big things has been kind of practicing moderation and balance, which is one of those things that people always talk about, and it's like, just live a balanced life. And actually getting there feels impossible when you don't know how to tune into your body or know actually what balance really means, or, where there's all this conflicting advice. And I really feel like now I can kind of enjoy a treat mindfully and move on from it. And like that was just not a mindset that I was able to use or have before.
Mm. And Sophie, I think some of the conversations we had initially and throughout the 12 weeks were not just diet related, but about the impact that your PCOS symptoms
Mhm.
had on the rest of your life, on work, on how you were showing up for yourself.
Yeah.
How has that changed?
I think by putting my needs first in some ways, it has had a really huge knock-on effect. I mean, we did lots of work around reducing stress in really small ways. Like, one of the things that made a huge difference was, when I had looked into how to reduce stress at work and everything, and it was always about taking time out of your day. And I felt like I couldn't use that because I didn't have the time. So when we were talking about like breathing techniques and things like that that you can do at your desk, and it doesn't have to, add time onto your day, and it's, just working around the life that you have, not this kind of ideal life that you don't have yet. And made a huge difference. And I think one of the really big things was, I felt like I couldn't relax before we started working together. I would get to the end of the day and couldn't sleep because I was just felt really wired from anxiety and stress all day long. And being able to kind of reset to a much more neutral state means that at the end of the day, I feel okay and I feel relaxed when I get home. And I actually, have time to do fun things and enjoy my life and, learn a new language and, just do fun things that I really missed, and I felt like I didn't have space for before. Um, and I guess kind of similarly, it's fed into like having boundaries with other people, in terms of like energy and space, and also around food, not necessarily basing all of my social interactions around food with people, which was a huge thing. I think my family and friends are very keen on, and it was, also about having the confidence to not necessarily do the same as what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. And it's amazing how something like having boundaries is something that a lot of us struggle with. But actually, when you start showing up for yourself, when you start prioritizing yourself, you have the confidence to create those boundaries, and it just makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think when we first started working together, I was working late every day and every weekend mostly. Um, and since kind of setting those boundaries with myself and, setting a kind of limit on my time and my energy, I've been working like just mostly just my regular hours, but I've been so much more productive and focused, and I've enjoyed everything so much more. Yeah, compared to before.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because when you are showing up for work now, you have the energy, you have the clarity, you don't have the brain fog.
Yeah,
You're showing up as your best, most efficient self, and therefore that's giving you space to not have to work evenings, not have to work weekends, and have a life, which is incredible. So well done for that. Um, what would you say to someone who is thinking about working with me but is not sure?
I would say go for it. I think when I had thought about it for a really long time. I think I was signed up to your newsletter for months before I made the leap. But um, it's made such a difference. But also, I think the act of investing in yourself and knowing that you're doing something for yourself and your future, um, means that it's a time where you can just really focus on actually doing that, and it feels really significant. And yeah, the difference has been huge. My life looks a lot different than it did 3 months ago. So yeah, go for it.
And I think for me, Sophie, the most important thing is that the changes are sustainable.
Yeah.
So does this feel like a new version of yourself that's here to stay?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we were talking about bare minimums last week and, the least um you can do to show up for yourself every day and taking that kind of perspective on it, it's all these small steps that just mean that, looking after yourself is the priority and the focus, and all of those changes are really, really like cemented into my life now. So yeah, it really does feel sustainable and feels kind of hopeful in a way that I never really felt before with any other approach that I'd taken, because I know that, as I continue to, just be consistent with everything, things will continue and improve even more. And that's a really nice place to be in.